Thank you, Minister. Senator Polley.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Assistant Minister for Social Services, Senator Fifield. I refer to the government's heartless and short-sighted decision to axe the Dementia Severe Behaviours Supplement on the 26th of June this year. Can the minister explain why he waited over a month after the budget to make this announcement and did not engage in any detailed consultation with providers prior to the announcement?
The Assistant Minister for Social Services, Senator Fifield.
Thank you, Mr President. Mr President. Senators who follow the Community Affairs Committee through estimates will know that I advised Budget Estimates Committee that there were significant issues with the Dementia and Severe Behaviours Supplement. I also ensured that the Aged Care Committee, which is an advisory group to government, was advised that there were significant issues. And I might just refresh the memory of colleagues who may not remember from last Thursday, although I'm sure you were hanging on every word and do, that the previous government introduced in August last year the Dementia and Severe Behaviours Supplement. They allocated $11.7 million for the last financial year. That actually came in at $110 million. And in fact, over the forward estimates, on a no policy change basis, according to the design of the former government, there would have been not an expenditure of the $52 million that they made budget provision for, but in fact it would have been $780 million, and over a 10-year period it would have been $1.5 billion. Now, Mr President, it would not be responsible for the government to do nothing in the face of that. The only responsible thing to do was to conclude that particular supplement. And I must, Mr President, make clear that those opposite who have been skulking around aged care facilities, unnecessarily causing concern and distress to residents, are leaving the impression that the Dementia and Severe Behaviours Supplement was in fact the base and core funding for people with dementia. It is not. Our aged care system, about half the people who are in residential care have dementia. This was not the core funding for them. This was funding which was intended for people who had severe behaviours related to dementia.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Polley, supplementary question.
Thank you very much, Mr President. I refer to comments by Marcus Riley, Acting Chairman of the Leading Age Services Australia, that, and I quote, "This funding withdrawal will have a devastating impact on individuals who need extra support. Our research shows that it will also damage industry's ability to invest in training and dementia-specific care environments." Does the minister agree?
Minister.
Mr President, the first thing that Senator Polley and Mr Shorten need to do is to actually understand what they're talking about. Mr Shorten this morning, with Senator Polley, at a press conference said he called for the reinstatement of what he called the Dementia and Other Diseases Supplement. In fact, there was no such supplement. It was the Dementia and Severe Behaviours Supplement. So he doesn't even know what the supplement was intended to do in the first place. His other mistake was to refer to it as a $16 supplement paid to
Pause
people.
The clock. Senator Moore, point of order.
Thank you, Mr President. It's on direct relevance. We appreciate the minister's comments about the newscast this morning. This question was specifically about a quote from Mr Marcus Riley. If we could get to that quote before the end of the minister's time.
Thank you, Senator Moore. The question also contained a fairly long preamble, and the minister has 30 seconds to answer the question. Is this a point of order, Senator Wong? Yes.
On the point of order, there is no preamble. It is simply. Well, I appreciate, Mr President, with all of the interjection in the chamber, you may not have had the opportunity.
Order, Senator McDonald. Senator Wong.
You may not have had the opportunity to listen to the question. There is actually very little preamble. It's simply a reference to the comments and then a full quote. And the question is whether or not the minister agreed. That is the only point in the question.
And Senator Wong, you were rising to your feet as I was continuing to explain that I heard the question, I've heard the answer part so far, and the minister has 30 seconds left to answer the question. Minister.
Thank you, Mr President. Mr Shorten also this morning referred to the cutting of a $16 payment to people living with dementia. The payment never went to people living with dementia.
Pause the clock. Minister. Minister. Point of order, Senator Moore.
Mr President, again, it's on direct relevance. You actually drew the attention of the minister to the question, and then there has been no return to the specific question that we asked.
There was 5 seconds. He was on his feet for 5 seconds. He has 23 seconds left. Senator Fifield.
Thank you, Mr President. The issue remains here, that of third-party comment. And let me refer to Dr Stephen Judd of Hammond Care, who said, and I quote, "Its cessation had to happen. There is still a place to have a supplement, but it has to be focused and targeted to that small group with severe behaviours."
Senator Moore, point of order.
Mr President, again, direct relevance. We still have not got to the question asked by Senator Polley, the comment made by Mr Marcus Riley and the minister's opinion of that question.
I draw the minister's attention to the question. The minister has 8 seconds to answer the question. Minister.
Mr President, I thought it would be helpful to the chamber to have another third-party comment.
Senator Polley, final supplementary question.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Mr President. How long will aged care providers, dementia sufferers and their families have to wait until the minister announces his new policy?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr President. If there is to be a finger pointed at anyone over the failure of the Dementia and Severe Behaviours Supplement, it should be pointed at those opposite. Flawed design, budget blowout. Mr President, and let me quote Mr Ian Yates, Chief Executive of COTA. COTA Australia agrees with Stephen Judd that termination of the supplement was inevitable. Many providers were receiving very substantial extra funds without validation and with no guarantee of better outcomes for people with severe.
Senator Moore, a point of order.
Again, Mr President, on direct relevance, the particular question was about the time we have to wait for the minister's new policy. It was not asking for new information from other third-party people.
Thank you, Senator Moore. I draw the minister's attention to the question that was asked. Minister.
Thank you, Mr President. Well, I make it clear that that policy and design of the former government is gone. It is not coming back. We are going to work cooperatively with the sector to see if we can come up with something that is better targeted and better focused than those opposite came forward with.
Senator Bushby.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Assistant Minister for Social Services. Can the minister advise the Senate of the reasons for the design failure of the Dementia and Severe Behaviour Supplement?
The Assistant Minister for Social Services. Order. Order, Senator Carr. Senator Fifield. On my left. Senator Fifield.
Thank you, Mr President, and I thank Senator Bushby for his question. And I guess I can surmise as to why he's asking the question, because his failure to hear my answers because of what was coming from the other side in response to Senator Polley's questions. But, Mr President, Senator Bushby asks the reasons for the design failure of the scheme, and I would have thought those opposite would know, but clearly they don't. So let me share with them. The reason why the blowout occurred was because of serious design failures. And let me be very specific as to what they were. As a result of the design of the former government, there was no validation process to check whether the claims were for those it was designed to support, i.e. 2,000 people with dementia exhibiting severe behaviours, and there was no validation process to check whether it was effectively supporting management of those severe behaviours. And I know my colleagues had difficulty hearing the actual statistics I referred to before, so I'll repeat them. The previous government in the last financial year budgeted $11 million for the scheme. It came in at $110 million. Over the forward estimates, they budgeted $52 million. On a constant policy
Senator
basis,
Polley.
it would have been $780 million, and over 10 years it would have been $1.5 billion. Now, the design of those opposite was meant to see 2,000 people qualify aged care providers to receive that supplement. At the end of the last financial year, it was 29,000 people. Not 2,000, 29,000 people. So, Mr President, as I've said in answer to probably 3 or 4 questions in this place on the Dementia and Severe Behaviours Supplement, although we were not the people who created this problem. Although we were not the people who created this design flaw, nevertheless it fell to us to address the situation.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Bushby, supplementary question.
Yes, I do have a supplementary. Can the minister advise the Senate on alternatives to the action he has taken?
Minister.
Yes, I can, Mr. President. Those opposite do have an alternative plan, which is more of the same. Mr Shorten was at an aged care facility today where he said, look at the ALP website, look at our petition. He did not say, look, we realise we fundamentally made a hash of the design of the scheme. He didn't say that. He didn't say our design resulted in a fundamental budget blowout. What he said was, we're going to reinstate it. So it's incumbent upon the Australian Labor Party to indicate where are they going to find $780 million over the forward estimates. Money that is beyond the $52 million that was budgeted for. Where are they going to find, over 10 years, $1.5 billion? You would think that they would at least have the good grace to say, look, we're looking at an alternative proposal. No, they're not. What they're proposing is more of the same. And I feel for Mr Bowen, and I feel for his counterpart, the Shadow Minister for Finance, they would have slapped their head thinking, what has Bill Shorten put us into?
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering the question has expired. Senator Bushby, final supplementary.
Thank you, Mr President. Can the minister update the Senate on consultations with the sector in relation to the future of dementia care?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr President. There's a strange noise emanating from over there. I can't quite work out what it is, but it's been fairly constant. Mr President, the government has been actively consulting with the aged care sector on this issue. And as I indicated on Thursday, the government is going to be holding a forum in coming weeks to bring together relevant stakeholders and experts to consider strategies to improve care for people with dementia in residential settings. It's important, Mr President, to note that it will consider the issue in the context of dementia care being core business for all aged care services, and also acknowledge the need for specialist support for clients with more severe behavioural symptoms. Again, I say this was not a problem of this government's creation, but it's one that we are determined to find a solution to. Mr President, there is still that strange noise emanating somewhere in the vicinity of Tasmania over there. I don't know what it is, but it's incoherent and incomprehensible.
Thank you, Minister.